not sending their finest.
Hello?
Welcome, Rudy. Go ahead. Or JL Rich. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm an atheist. What questions you got for me?
Okay, well, explain to me why you're an atheist.
Well, typically, when you want to prove something is right, there's like something called the scientific method that anybody can follow those steps and come to the same conclusion. And with religion, there's Christianity. There's like, what, over a dozen flavors of Christianity. So when you say Christianity is the one true religion, which one do you mean?
Yeah, your statement is all over the map. You're talking about determining things are true only on scientific grounds? Is that your position?
That's part of my position.
No. Okay, so is it your standard for something to be true and correct and meaningful, it must be empirically verified?
I mean, that's how most things in the world works. I mean, your car wouldn't work
No, sir, you
without
need to
that.
focus on what I'm presenting to you, okay?
Okay.
Is it your position that in order to believe in God and the Christian worldview, that it must be established to you and for you through scientific empirical means?
I mean, I should be able to get there by myself by following some kind
Okay,
of
you're not
method.
answering my
So,
questions. Dodge one more time and I will remove you. Okay, I'm looking for intelligent opposition. Is it your position that in order to accept God's existence, see, your position is God does not exist, right? You said you're an atheist, right?
hmm
Is atheism a positive claim?
I don't think it can be positive or negative.
It is a positive claim. Okay, theism is a positive claim. Atheism is a positive claim. The positive claim is that all things that can and do exist without reference to God. Theism is the position that all things that can and do exist with reference to God. Okay, so they both can be cashed out as both positively or negatively, depending on how it's worded. So your position is there is no God, right?
Yep.
Okay, so give me the rational defense of how you determine that God does not exist.
I mean, you haven't really given a rational reason why God would exist. But for
Okay,
me,
sir,
for
listen to me
me,
carefully.
okay.
Listen, whether or not I'm guilty of what you just stated, which I'm not guilty of, because if you've been listening, I did give a positive defense of God's existence. I am waiting for you to explain why there's no God. Okay? If you don't get to the point,
Not exist. That God has not present Himself anytime to a modern age. It's only during like in the past has God has presented Himself when people could barely even read.
okay, what you've now presented is classically what is called an appeal to ignorance fallacy.
Oh, okay.
That atheism is true because it hasn't been shown to be false. Okay? So the appeal to ignorance fallacy is that a proposition is true because it hasn't been shown to be false. So do you understand that you have committed an appeal to ignorance fallacy?
And that's what you want to call it.
Well, an appeal to ignorance fallacy is not a rational defense that God doesn't exist. So far, you haven't given me a rational defense that God doesn't exist. Do you have any other?
So that means that the Loch Ness monster exists, unicorns exist, Bigfoot exists because
No,
there's no empirical evidence that says otherwise.
we have very good reasons to believe that they don't exist. Okay? So typically when you don't have a defense for your universal unqualified declaration that God doesn't exist, people like you start appealing to Santa Claus, unicorns, and the Loch Ness monster. We have good reasons to believe that those do not exist. Do you have a good reason to believe God doesn't exist?
I mean, just going off the Bible, there's so many
Sir,
contradictions.
you're not answering my question. You're changing the subject now. Your
I'm
position
not
is there
changing the
is no
subject.
God. If you don't give me an attempted rational justification that God doesn't exist, right, and you try to scurry down a semi-related rabbit trail, I'm going to move on instantly to somebody else, okay? So what is your rational justification that God does not exist? And please do not repeat what you said earlier because none of that held up upon examination.
There is no evidence that can be experienced to say that God does exist.
Yeah,
How can I prove?
you're repeating what you said earlier. That's an appeal to ignorance fallacy.
All right, well,
Okay,
I guess go ahead
do
and
you
take.
realize you're repeating the same fallacy?
How else can I answer the question, sir?
Do you realize that you have committed an appeal to ignorance fallacy? If you want me to walk you through it again, I will. You are saying that atheism is true, God does not exist, because it hasn't been falsified. That's an appeal to ignorance fallacy. No.
In your eyes, yes.
Yeah, so you don't have a rational defense for your God denialism, do you?
I do. There's nothing
Good.
that can.
Then what? Okay. Then you need to give me something new, because what you just did was you repeated what you said before, and I showed you it's an appeal to ignorance fallacy. You're saying is atheism is true because it hasn't been falsified. That's an appeal to ignorance fallacy.
I don't know how you could prove something false if you can't even measure it. Like, you realize that when you say you have to prove something false, you have
Okay.
to have
Yeah.
some kind of
Yeah. I'm
ground.
going to remove you because you're not intelligently responding to me.
Okay then.
Yeah.
You have a good one, sir.
No intelligent opposition. What does that tell you, folks? They're afraid, very afraid.